8:47 a.m. Tuesday, March 12th. The Somali Embassy Complex, Washington, D.C. The morning fog sits heavy over the diplomatic quarter. 17 black SUVs line Reservoir Road. Federal agents in tactical gear move with surgical precision through the pre-dawn darkness, their badges glinting under sodium lights. Within the next 90 seconds, they will enter a building that has stood as a symbol of international sovereignty for 32 years. What they will discover inside will expose one of the largest financial crimes ever perpetrated within the American diplomatic establishment. This is not a routine security sweep. This is Operation Clearwaters. At 6:52 a.m., the first breach team crosses the threshold of the main embassy building. The operation has been planned for 18 months. 67 federal agents from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the Treasury Department's Criminal Investigation Division are simultaneously executing 43 separate warrants across the Washington metropolitan area. They are looking for evidence of a conspiracy so vast, so methodically constructed, that it will eventually implicate 2 sitting United Nations liaisons, 14 Foreign Service officers, 8 private security contractors, and 7 high-ranking members of the Somali federal government itself. The scale of the operation was only known to 42 people in the entire federal government. By 9:15 a.m., agents have secured the main administrative wing. Filing cabinets are photographed before removal. Hard drives are extracted from computers that have been running continuous encryption protocols. In the basement, accessible only through a door concealed behind a diplomatic wall hanging, agents discover the operation's nerve center. The room spans approximately 800 square feet. Its walls are covered with hand-drawn transaction maps, written in permanent marker on laminated sheets. Dollar amounts are circled in red. Some figures exceed 100 million. This is where they managed it. This is where the $3.7 billion flowed. The investigation begins 6 months earlier. The first thread came not from the embassy, but from a cryptocurrency exchange in Arlington, Virginia. A suspicious activity report filed by a compliance officer named Margaret Chen showed a pattern that didn't fit. Between November 2021 and February 2024, 17 separate wire transfers totaling $247 million had moved through accounts nominally associated with a diplomatic supply company called Meridian Logistics International. The amounts were regular. The timing was predictable. The recipients were scattered across 43 countries, but funneled through identical banking corridors in the United Arab Emirates and Malta. Chen reported the pattern to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network on March 8th of the previous year. That report landed on the desk of FBI Special Agent Marcus Williamson at 2:34 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Williamson had spent 19 years pursuing financial crimes across 7 federal agencies. He recognized the signature immediately. This was deliberate. This was practiced. This was institutional. The first warrant was unsealed on June 4th of the previous year. It targeted the bank records of Meridian Logistics International's 3 principals. Within 3 weeks, the investigation had expanded to include the embassy's financial operations, its procurement divisions, and its staffing records. What emerged was a conspiracy structured with the precision of a military operation. The money laundering network operated on a simple principle: exploit the legitimate financial flows required to maintain diplomatic operations and layer illicit funds into those flows at multiple points. Somali federal government contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars, ostensibly for infrastructure development, security operations, and administrative services, were routed through Meridian Logistics International. The company, in turn, invoiced the Somali government for services never rendered, equipment never delivered, and personnel never deployed. The Somali treasury, corrupted at the highest levels, approved these payments without audit or verification. The funds then moved through banking channels controlled by individuals at the embassy, passed through shell corporations in Malta and Cyprus, and emerged in the United States as legitimized capital that purchased real estate in Arlington, commercial properties in Bethesda, and cryptocurrency holdings across 3 continents. By August of the previous year, federal investigators had identified 17 separate financial entities involved in the conspiracy. By October, they had traced $1.3 billion in illicit flows. By December, the number had grown to $2.8 billion. The investigation had revealed not merely a theft, but a systematic replacement of governmental function with criminal enterprise. The architects. The conspiracy's central figure was Ambassador Abdi Hassan Karim, a career diplomat who had served in 5 different postings across 32 years of foreign service. Karim held the title of Deputy Chief of Mission. On the surface, his credentials were impeccable. Educated at Yale, fluent in 6 languages, decorated by the State Department for his diplomatic achievements during the 2012 Mogadishu peace accords. His personnel file contained no disciplinary records, no security violations, no indication of financial impropriety. Behind closed doors, Karim was operating a criminal enterprise with the sophistication of a Fortune 500 corporation. He had established procurement protocols that appeared legitimate to external auditors. He had created fake shipping manifests that corresponded to genuine diplomatic communications. He had cultivated relationships with 3 individuals in the Somali federal government's finance ministry and ensured that invoices submitted by Meridian Logistics would be approved within 48 hours of submission. Karim was assisted by commercial attach Farah Mohammed Abdi and economic counselor Hassan Ibrahim Saleh. Both men held diplomatic credentials that provided them with immunity from ordinary criminal prosecution, a protection that FBI Director Patricia Wellington would later describe in congressional testimony as a loophole wide enough to move billions of dollars through. The investigation would eventually identify 28 additional co-conspirators, 5 private security contractors who provided false documentation of services rendered, 8 individuals working within the Somali federal government's finance and defense ministries, 7 banking compliance officers who ignored or actively suppressed suspicious activity reports, and 3 cryptocurrency exchange managers who processed the final conversions of illicit funds into tradable digital assets. Each conspirator had been recruited with care. Some were motivated by direct payments. Ambassador Karim received approximately $14.2 million in personal transfers over the conspiracy's duration. Others were coerced through blackmail involving personal relationships or financial vulnerabilities. Still, others became participants through incremental compromise, first overlooking suspicious transactions, then actively facilitating them, until they crossed the threshold from witness to accomplice. The evidence. By March 12th, when the synchronized raids commenced, federal investigators had compiled a case spanning 47,000 pages of documentation. The financial records alone consisted of 7,400 individually documented transactions. The email evidence filled 300 gigabytes of storage. The recorded communications captured in wiretap operations spanned 1,230 hours. In the basement of the embassy, agents recovered 43 hand-drawn ledgers documenting the movement of funds. These ledgers, written by Hassan Ibrahim Saleh in his personal cipher, provided what prosecutors would later call a comprehensive accounting of conspiracy and theft. The entries documented not merely the movement of money, but the intention behind each transfer, the individuals responsible for processing each payment, and the dates when specific shipments of falsified documentation were produced. The evidence included photographs of physical currency, approximately $4.7 million in U.S. $100 bills recovered from safety deposit boxes accessed through proxies. The evidence included cryptocurrency holdings traceable to wallets established by Ambassador Karim's nephew. The evidence included communications with officials in 3 foreign governments who had been offered financial incentives to provide diplomatic cover for shell corporations. The evidence was overwhelming. More importantly, it was documented. It was traceable. It was unchallengeable. Simultaneity and precision. The execution of 43 separate warrants at precisely 6:47 a.m. on March 12th was designed to achieve a single strategic objective: prevent the destruction of evidence and prevent flight. Each target location was approached by agents who had been briefed with specific intelligence about what evidence might be destroyed first. At Ambassador Karim's residence in Georgetown, a 5-story townhouse purchased in 2019 for $3.8 million with illicit funds, Agents found a laptop still powered on, its hard drive partially wiped but recoverable by the FBI's cyber forensics specialists. At the home of Farah Mohammed Abdi in Bethesda, agents discovered a safe containing jewelry valued at $847,000 and documentation linking Abdi to cryptocurrency purchases totaling $127 million. At Commercial Bank Services, Inc., located in Arlington, an entity whose board included 3 of the conspirators, agents secured 14 filing cabinets containing the master records of the money laundering operation. Within 8 hours, all 43 targets had been secured. Within 36 hours, all 28 individuals present in the United States had been arrested and charged. The charges. The criminal complaint filed against Ambassador Abdi Hassan Karim consisted of 73 counts: conspiracy to commit money laundering, substantive money laundering across 14 separate transactions exceeding $100 million each, conspiracy to defraud the United States government, conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, wire fraud spanning multiple financial institutions, and conspiracy to commit aggravated identity theft. Farah Mohammed Abdi faced 68 counts. Hassan Ibrahim Saleh, who had attempted to flee to Kenya and was apprehended at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, faced 81 counts. The remaining 25 co-conspirators faced between 14 and 52 counts each. The charges were specific. They were documented. They were supported by evidence that had been cataloged and preserved with procedural precision. The investigation had established with evidentiary certainty that between November 2021 and February 2024, the conspiracy had stolen $3.7 billion from the Somali federal government. This $3.7 billion represented approximately 41% of Somalia's annual national budget. It represented funding that should have been directed toward infrastructure development, healthcare services, educational expansion, and security operations. Instead, it had been systematically diverted into the personal accounts of 28 individuals operating within the Somali government, the Somali Diplomatic Service, and private contracting firms. The aftermath. The federal indictments were unsealed on March 15, 2024. The press conference was held in the Robert F. Kennedy Department of Justice building. FBI Director Patricia Wellington stood at the podium for 43 minutes. Her statement documented the scope of the investigation, the scale of the theft, and the mechanisms of the conspiracy with forensic precision. This investigation represents one of the largest financial crimes ever perpetrated within the American diplomatic establishment, Wellington stated. The individuals charged in these indictments systematically exploited the legitimate financial operations of diplomatic service to steal billions of dollars that belonged to the people of Somalia. The conspiracy was not the work of isolated criminals. It was perpetrated by individuals with access to sensitive information, individuals with authority over financial systems, and individuals whose positions of trust made this crime possible. The subsequent weeks produced cascade effects throughout multiple governmental agencies. The State Department initiated security reviews of 47 foreign diplomatic missions. The Treasury Department imposed new audit requirements on all entities with diplomatic financial privileges. The FBI expanded its investigation of diplomatic fraud to include reviews of 7 additional embassy complexes. Ambassador Karim entered a guilty plea on April 18th. He was sentenced to 32 years in federal prison. Farah Mohammed Abdi received 27 years. Hassan Ibrahim Saleh, extradited from Kenya after a legal process lasting 53 days, received 29 years. The 17 conspirators who cooperated with the government in exchange for reduced sentences received terms ranging from 4 years to 18 years. The remaining co-conspirators proceeded to trial, with verdicts issued between May and August of the following year. All were convicted on the majority of charges brought against them. The Somali federal government initiated its own legal proceedings against 8 of its officials implicated in the conspiracy. 3 remain in custody pending trial. 1. Defense Ministry official Yusuf Hassan Mohammed was assassinated in Mogadishu under circumstances that remain officially unresolved. The scale. $3.7 billion stolen. 28 individuals arrested. 43 simultaneous warrants executed, 18 months of investigation, 7,400 documented transactions. The numbers accumulate. They establish a pattern of such magnitude that the conspiracy transcends ordinary theft and becomes institutional corruption on a scale that demands accountability, investigation, and reform. This is what institutional betrayal looks like. This is what happens when the individuals entrusted with diplomatic authority choose to exploit that authority for personal enrichment. This is what the investigation into Operation Clearwater's revealed, not merely a crime, but a systemic vulnerability in how the United States manages financial oversight of diplomatic operations. The investigation is ongoing. Federal prosecutors estimate that additional co-conspirators remain unidentified. The Treasury Department has indicated that the full scope of illicit flows may exceed the $3.7 billion already documented. The State Department has commissioned a comprehensive review of diplomatic financial procedures across all foreign missions. Justice has been delivered to the perpetrators. Accountability has been established. But the investigation into Operation Clearwaters stands as a warning about the vulnerability of institutional systems when those entrusted with authority choose to betray that trust. On March 12th at 6:47 a.m., federal agents entered the Somali Embassy complex with warrants and evidence and the weight of months of investigation behind them. By the time they left, they had begun to dismantle one of the largest financial crimes in recent American history. The investigation revealed that corruption does not announce itself. It operates quietly through legitimate channels until the scale of the theft becomes so substantial that it can no longer remain hidden. The conspirators believed they had created a system that was undetectable. They were wrong. The investigation proved otherwise.